So the first one that we're going to do here is absorption costing. So you just got to work out the profit. The key thing with absorption costing as opposed to activity-based costing is, with absorption costing, you basically just sum up all your overheads. And all your overheads are what they call your indirect costs. And these are these ones. These are the costs that can't be directly related to production. So the actual producing of your units, of your goods. So like direct labor can be attributed directly to the profit or to the production of a good. So therefore it's called direct labor. What then you get it, the way I think about it in term is that you always think about it in a production line. Think about, direct labor and direct materials and so on and so forth as things that think about it in terms of a production line. So those people that are standing on the production line, that are actually putting those materials together, would be your direct labor. Those materials are actually going into your product, like your rubber tires, your the aluminium for your car, the glass, all that. They would be your direct materials. Okay, so think about that direct costs, those direct costs that are in terms of production, and think of it in terms of a production line. I mean, it's the easiest way to do it. So what we do with absorption costing is we just say, okay, first you want to work out what is my unit cost, my direct unit cost per product. Okay, so what we do is usually you've got direct labor and direct materials. Okay, and you got standard and deluxe. Okay, so actually let's just put selling price on here, up here at the top first. So selling price, which is 65, and then 87. Direct material. So direct labor per hour is per hour is £8. Yeah, and it's direct labor hours is 2. So your direct labor for standard would be 2 times 16. I mean 2 times 8, sorry, because it's not 16. 2 times 8, so it is 16. 2 times 8 is 16. Okay, and then your direct for deluxe, you do the same, so it would be 8 equals 8 times 2.5, which is 20. Okay, 8 times 2.5, yeah, because your diet takes you 2 hours to make it at £8 an hour. £8 an hour, 2.5 times to make it. Okay, your direct material cost per unit is 22, so nothing to do there. You just put 22 and 33, or 32 even, sorry. Okay, all this is for activity-based costing, which we'll cover in the next tutorial. You don't need to worry about this here. Basically, activity-based costing is a more advanced version of absorption costing that tries to allocate the overheads according to how much of something that they use. You'll see that the absorption costing is a more crude way of allocating it. So, okay, we can ignore that. So then we've got these overhead costs. So what we do for activity-based costing, yeah, for absorption-based costing, you just copy and paste them, sum it up, right? Just sum this up. Yeah. Okay, sum that up. And then what you do once you've summed that up, you work out the total number of hours that are being used across all products. So as it tells you here, because it says what is your absorption method. Your absorption method here is direct labor hours to absorb your overheads. So what you're going to work out is what are the total number of labor hours that have been used, and you take the overheads and you divide that to get a total number of hours. Total number of overhead per labor hour. So you get it kind of like a unit cost. And then you times it in by however many labor hours that are used to get the unit cost, as you'll see in a minute. And the reason why we do this with our overheads is because there's no way, they're not direct, so there's no easy way of allocating them into the product costs. Yeah, there's no easy way of doing it. So that's why. Okay, there's no easy way. So that's why they do it. They just pick an overhead. So it's usually what drives most of the volume believed to drive most of the overhead costs, which is all the volume of production. In this case, it's labor hours. It might be machine hours, it might be units. There are different overhead absorption rates. But the key thing is to get one that's most accurate according to what's going to give you the price per unit. Because if you don't absorb these costs into your product cost per unit, essentially you'll misprice your products. So that's all absorption cost is doing, is trying to get these unit costs accurately into the product cost per unit so that you can price your products correctly. Okay, so number of labor hours, direct labor hours per unit. Okay, so 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So that the total labor hours that are going to be used, if it's 2 hours to create 1 unit of standard, and we're going to create 12,000, the total number of labor hours will be 2 times 12,000, which is 24,000. Yeah, for deluxe, yeah, you'll have 12,000 times 2,500, yeah, which is 30,000. Okay, so what we do, total labor hours. So total labor hours, yeah, standard, deluxe, yeah, hours. So just put labor hours per unit. Number of units. So you got 12,000. 12,000, 2,000, 2,500. Okay. So that's total. 24,000, yeah. 30,000. And then total labor hours then is the sum of these, yeah. 54,000, yeah. And then, so your total overheads are here. Then you want to work out your overhead absorption rate, yeah? Overhead absorption rate. Overhead absorption rate. Okay. Which is going to be 333,200 divided by 54,000, yeah. Okay. Which is 6.17. Yeah. Or 6.2 if you want to round it up. Okay. And then what you get is, we'll put this as overheads. Yeah. And because per unit, you get 2 hours, yeah? But then you times that 2 hours by that because you're working on a per unit basis. So it's going to be 12.4. Okay, or 12.3 even. And this will be 2.5 times 6.2. Okay. Because you want to remember this is, they want to know the profit per unit. And if your overhead absorption rate, you're saying you've got 333,200 in overheads, total labor hours of 54,000. You want to absorb your overheads by labor hours, yeah? You therefore divide that 333,000 by 2 200 by 54,000 to get 6.2, which is your overhead absorption rate, or you can think about it in terms of overhead cost per labor hour. So this is your overhead per labor hour, yeah, and more commonly called your you just call it overhead absorption rate generally. You would then take this number as it's per hour, times that by the number of labor hours per unit that are used in each one of your products. In this case, you've got 12.3 and 15.4, and then that is essentially your absorption costing method then, and that's your total costs. You just sum these up here. You can just do that. Okay. Total cost 50.3, and obviously then your profit per unit is simply 65 minus that, 14.7 and 16.9 so far. Have we missed any costs? Have I missed any costs? No. No, I have not. So profit per unit is that, and then your return on sales is really simple. You just divide that divided by that. Okay. Voila. That is your absorption based costing, okay? Next tutorial we'll do activity based costing.